how would you describe the difference between playing sort of in the age of COVID as, as opposed to, having fans at least following you and potentially really huge crowds following you on the course?
I feel like I'm spending more time at the golf course. You're not really expending as much energy physically or mentally, getting stopped by someone or bumping into people, signing autographs, all that stuff. So usually with the crowds and the atmosphere, you're really, it's easy for you to focus on what you're doing. But then, if all you're hearing are the birds chirping in the trees and, your mind can wander a little bit.
Here's a good look at his golf swing there.
Did you see how far behind the golf ball his left shoulder got? That was amazing.
I am Danny Milton, editor at Hodinkee. I am joined by four-time major champion, reigning FedEx Cup champion, and reigning player of the year, Rory McIlroy. Thanks for joining us, Rory. Welcome in.
Thank you. Thanks for the nice introduction.
For sure. When you win all the awards, you got to at least, appreciate them. I've heard a little bit about your sort of origin story. I know you had, you grew up playing golf, but tell us a little bit about that. What was it like sort of growing up in Northern Ireland, coming up, and sort of when you knew, at what point did you sort of know? And I feel like it might have been at a young age, like this is going to be it. This is the thing I'm going to do.
Yeah, it was from a young age. I mean, I think, I was quite sporty growing up. So golf was always the thing that I excelled at and the thing that I was the best at.
Your mum's washing machine's here. Her hall carpet's here. We have a few balls. We want to see you chipping a few in. Will you do that?
Yeah.
Come on over this way. Let's bring young Rory over this way. Come on, Rory. Now, do you want to be a professional golfer when you grow up?
Yes.
So yeah, from a young age, I knew that I had a talent for it. I mean, I would maybe say something, as a innocent and naive kid that I was, going to be a professional golfer and win majors and all that stuff. But I didn't really know that until I was probably 15 or 16. And at the start, it was just about trying to make a living from the game, right? That was,
sure.
You turn pro and that was sort of what it was about. And then once you get on tour and you realize that you can go further than that, that's when I started to readjust my goals and be like, well, it isn't just about making a living now. It's about winning tournaments. It's about winning majors. It's about trying to be the best. So yeah, it's been, golf has been a part of my life the whole way through. But I would say since sort of my mid-teens is when I knew it's what I wanted to do.
You and I are about the same age. So would you say Tiger Woods was sort of that icon for you coming up, that one person you sort of watched and followed as a kid on the tour?
Yeah, for sure. I think anyone in our age group, I remember even before Tiger turned pro, I remember watching him win the 3 US amateurs in a row. And then 97, he wins the Masters, his first major. And then from there, so Tiger was a huge hero of mine growing up. And I had a poster of him on my bedroom wall. I knew all his records and achievements and wanted the latest and greatest Nike stuff all the time. And anything he used or anything he did, that's what I tried to do. So Tiger has been a huge influence on my life, especially as a youngster growing up and trying to emulate what he was doing. But then also since turning pro and getting to know him a little bit, he's been a pretty good friend on the tour too. So that's been pretty cool.
Definitely. So I have to bring you back to 2011 because at the US Open, that's actually the course in my hometown. So Congressional.
Oh,
so
okay. Bethesda.
Bethesda, exactly. So I was there. I wasn't there on Sunday, but I was there on Thursday and Friday watching. And you were different back then. You had the longer hair, totally different look. So take us back to long hair Rory, running away with the US Open. I mean, that must have been just a crazy feeling.
Yeah, different. I look back then and there was a lot less thought about everything that I was doing. I was very raw. It was all talent. It was all just relying on that, where I feel as if I've got more experience and I know a little bit more about myself and about my game, and I sort of probably manage myself a little bit better.
Another U.S. Open champion from Northern Ireland. An unreal performance from Rory McIlroy.
But it was just, some weeks you just show up and you're on and you try to ride that wave of momentum. And that's what I did that week.
Yeah, you definitely made what was considered to be a pretty hard course, at least for people who played it, look pretty easy.
Yeah, I think all the players were cursing me because we went to the Olympic Club the next week or the next year in San Francisco, and the USGA made sure to set it up a little bit more difficult.
So I want to talk about watches a little bit. This is Hodinkee after all. So
sure, exactly.
I know that you are, an enthusiast. You know a lot about wine, for example. So do you find a connection? How did you even get into watches in the first place? And do you find there's a similar sort of connection between, enthusiasm about something, passion for something, collecting, for example?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I've always been into watches, even when I was a teenager. So any money that I had, I would save. Or I remember my first big paycheck after a good finish on the European tour. I went straight to a jewelry store and bought myself a watch I wanted for a while. As an accessory, it's the one thing that you can change and sort of mix it up a little bit. So that's why I've always enjoyed it, and I've always, I follow you guys on Instagram, and I'm looking at watches all the time, and obviously I'm associated and a brand ambassador for Omega, and I love Omega watches, and I have a bunch, and I've started to sort of collect them too. But it's not as if I don't look at other cool things that are happening in the watch world either. So
for sure. And for those of us who didn't come up the way that you did, what's it like for a young kid who turns pro, and you get to be a brand ambassador, and you get access to a lot of cool watches, and especially for somebody like you, who you said you already were very much into watches to begin with. What's it like to sort of all of a sudden have that kind of great access and get to, be exposed to really cool pieces and things like that?
It is. Look, it is. It's really, really cool. And I get that I'm in a privileged position. A lot of these, I still there's been, a few Omega pieces, even though I'm a brand ambassador, that I will pay for myself because I want them. I mean, when I won the FedEx Cup last year, I bought myself the Omega Tourbillon because that's something that I wanted for a while, and I wanted to treat myself whenever I did something that I felt merited getting something like that. So it's cool to just learn how some of these pieces are made, and the detail that goes into them, and how long some of these things take to be created. And like the tourbillon, it's one person working on this thing for such a long time, and I think it's that, and that's when we talk about wine as well, and getting exposed to that. And I obviously enjoy drinking it, and I enjoy the taste, but I also enjoy hearing the stories about what went into making this wine. And okay, the weather this year actually wasn't so good, so this is what we had to do. We had to, the harvest was early, or it was late, or we had to do this or that, or so all of that is, so there's all the stories behind these things, and it just so happens that watches and wine are very collectible at the minute, and they're very sought after.
For sure. And I did a little diving into your Instagram too, and saw that you're a pretty big Speedy Tuesday fan. So you wear the Speedmaster pretty often. Is that a watch that you sort of tend to fall back to a lot of the time?
I do. I've always loved the look of a chronograph. So it's something that I do wear quite a lot. Omega actually made me this Speedmaster for my 30th birthday, that they released a limited run of, and this is one that is pretty special to me because there's not many around. And yeah, I wear this one quite a lot. I actually had to get a new wedding ring because my other wedding ring's platinum, but I got like a gold and titanium one to sort of match this watch because I wear it so much.
That's great. Yeah, that's the Speedmaster 57, right? That was for your birthday. It's a really cool watch. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, I wear that one quite a bit. It's again, it's nice to know that you've got something on your wrist that not a lot of other people have, I guess. For sure.
And on that note, you also got a hand in designing a watch or developing a watch, the ultralight.
The ultralight. Yeah.
What is that process like? How do you get into the development process of a watch? What's the connection of that watch specifically to sport? I don't know if it's golf specifically, or, just sort of, what was that like?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be golf specifically. I think it's light enough that you could play, basically any sport with the ultralight on. So the guys at Omega came to me and said, look, we're trying to develop a watch that, you know, you can wear on the course if you want to, and play with it, and sort of make it really sporty, but still have the integrity of what Omega is all about. So we're trying to make a new movement. We're trying to create it with materials that will withstand the shock of hitting a golf ball or a tennis ball or whatever you're doing. So I mean, I feel like they really thought outside of the box.
For sure. So do you, I don't think I've seen it, but what's your position on golfing while wearing a watch? Just for those out there who do or don't.
I mean, I think it has to be the right watch that you're wearing to play golf with a watch on, because, you know, you can't just go out with any watch and whack a golf ball around, because the shock of that is going to, you know, ruin the mechanism inside. So it has to be the right watch that you wear. And that's why there was so much thought and work put into the ultralight to make sure that, you know, no matter what you're doing activity wise, you know, the movement was going to be durable and intact.
Definitely. So the PGA is coming up, you know, it's going to be in San Francisco at Harding Park, originally scheduled in May and pushed to August. Does it feel a little bit, at least, you know, the circumstances aren't great, but generally speaking, the PGA would be in August before the schedule changed, I think a couple of years ago. So is it a little bit more familiar just sort of having this tournament this time of year, you know, at least, you know, for you?
Yeah. I mean, like I'm just happy that a PGA Championship getting played at all.
Right.
But in a way, it's nice that it's in August, especially San Francisco, because there could have been a couple of cold days in May. San Francisco is just, obviously the climate there can be, you know, it can be really nice or it can be gloomy and cold. And, you know, hopefully, you know, we've got a better chance of some decent weather in August. So I'm just happy that it's being played, and you know, that they could get it in. It's unfortunate that it has to be without fans.
That's interesting. How would you describe the difference between playing sort of in the age of COVID, as you know, as opposed to, you know, having fans at least following you and potentially really huge crowds following you on the course?
It's different, you know. It's in ways the start of weeks is actually a little bit easier. Like practice days and stuff, I feel like I'm spending more time at the golf course. You're not really expending as much energy physically or mentally in terms of getting stopped by someone or bumping into people, signing autographs, all that stuff. So the start of the weeks have actually been pretty easy, but then once you get into the tournament, that's when it starts to feel different, you know, especially on the weekend. You know, you're in contention. You know, you usually get all these feelings, you know, final group or last few groups going off on a Saturday or a Sunday, and you just don't have that. And I think that's what's been really interesting. And for me personally, it's been sort of hard to focus on the course at times. Usually with the crowds and the atmosphere, you know, you're really, you know, it's easy for you to focus on what you're doing. But then, you know, if all you're hearing are the birds chirping in the trees, and, you know, your mind can wander a little bit. So that's probably been the biggest challenge for me on the course, is just trying to keep my focus and concentration levels where they need to be, you know, all the way around. And it's been good. I mean, the first 4 tournaments back, I've realized that, and I've learned from it. You know, this is the way it's going to be going forward. So, you know, it's nice to play those few events and get a feel for how some of these bigger tournaments coming up are going to feel.
For sure. Now I got to ask before we go, for any given tournament, you know, whether it's press day, let's say you win the tournament and you're holding up the trophy, how many watches are you bringing to a tournament? And is there a choice each day, you wearing a different watch, or do you bring one watch for a tournament? You know, how does that selection process go for you?
Yeah. I bring multiple,
Okay.
mostly to do with what I'm wearing. So I'll probably bring 4. Yeah, usually 4. I've got like a little travel case, and it fits 4. So yeah, I'll usually bring 4. This one usually comes with me everywhere. Sort of like try to do, you know, the ultralight usually goes with me everywhere. And then I've got a black and gold Planet Ocean that I wear quite a lot. And then usually, because it seems like all the rage now is like steel with a blue face. Seems like these are just popping up everywhere. So
Sure.
I usually travel with one of those. So I've got like a Seamaster GMT steel with a blue face that I travel with quite a bit too.
That's awesome. I think I've seen you bring the Moonwatch with you on at least to some tournaments as well. Is that one that
the
you try to
Moonwatch?
bring?
The Moonwatch sometimes. I've got a couple of those, but I switch it up. But right now this one, the ultralight, the Planet Ocean, and then the GMT are the four that I'm going with.
That's a lot of fun. I think that at least everybody on Hodinkee will have some fun watch spotting, trying to see what you got on when it comes time for the tournament. Well, listen, Rory, really thanks for joining us today, taking the time out of your day to talk to us a little bit about golf, about watches, about life in these sort of crazy times that we're all trying to figure out in our own, unique ways. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, and best of luck at the PGA, and we're all going to be watching.
Thank you.